So it's official, sailing is going to be the new skill in old school RuneScape. And even though it wasn't the one that I voted for, it's still gonna be a skill in the game. And I'm gonna train it, I'm gonna max it, I'm gonna have fun with it. And yeah, however, from what we know about sailing, is that it's essentially going to be like a skill that augments other skills. It's not gonna be a skill that has like super deep mechanics, like on its own, but rather it's going to give you access to like islands and dungeons and stuff. So it would essentially function like dungeoneering. So I have a couple ideas on like what augmentations it could make to like other skills. And the first is a new fishing method, which I think would be really fun. So you guys know how tick manipulation is very engaging, but it's also super hard to gain, and it can be hard on your wrist. And what I would like to see would be basically a method that captures the essence of tick manipulation without having to break your wrist to do it. So essentially what I'm like envisioning is there's a spot that has like three fishing spots adjacent to it, and the first fishing spot you can catch like a frog spawn or something for bait. The second fishing spot you can catch like a tuna or something, and on the third fishing spot you would catch a new food item that would heal you 21 food when it's cooked. So it would be like a really decent healing item that like you can make very good use of. However, how these spots would function is instead of just AFKing it, clicking on the spot would be a one tick action, and you can only have one of either of those bait items that you catch in your inventory. So essentially, how this method would work is, let's imagine like these three are the skilling spots. You would just go like 1, 2, 3, and you would just catch like the fish like that, and that would give you like the best XP rates. But you could also just kind of like do it casually, just click from like spot to spot, and you could also like add like an AFK option where you can just like fill your inventory up with like one of the types of fish, but only if you're like AFK fishing. If you're like for example, it could be like a menu type thing that the game uses for like various things. So if you click on a spot after you have like one bait item in your inventory, it will give you a menu of whether to use the bait item or whatever, and the fishing would become like a free tick action. So you could just AFK at the first spot for 3 ticks and just fill up your inventory, and then go to the second spot and then go to the third spot. I think that would be a nice way to add like a form of inbuilt tick manipulation type of method, which I think would be super enjoyable to like train on, and I think that would be like a nice way to get fairly high healing food in a engaging way without it being like too intense for like just people who are just trying to game. Now, another thing I would like to see are basically gold mines. And I don't know how they would implement this. It would have to be like really well balanced in multiple ways. But I would really like to just be able to mine gold in this game. Because the way it works right now is if you want to train smithing on an ironman efficiently, you have two options. First, you just PVM and then you get PVM drops and then you use those to train smithing. And that's obviously not something a lot of skillers will do. And the second option is you have to buy gold from the Blast Furnace shop, which is not fun at all in my opinion. I generally don't like methods where you have to build hop, and essentially now with the two client hop meta, I think like all of those types of methods are just not gonna be like enjoyable no matter what you do, because two client hopping is a thing that has a skill ceiling, but it's not something that like I think most people would find fun, and it's something that like I definitely don't like find fun. So yeah, I would like to see like maybe a huge island that's like a circuit of gold ore, and you can go through those, and then you have a bank at one spot on the island, and then you can bank the gold ore. Or we could just get like living rock caverns or whatever that just pump out like massive amounts of gold ore. Another option that we could have is we could mine like a form of like perfected gold ore, because that's already an item that exists in the game. But what would be nice is if you could trade in a perfected gold ore for maybe free gold ore. So what you essentially could do is you could like tick manipulate an entire circuit of perfected gold ore in this hypothetical island, and as a reward you would get free regular gold ore that you can use for smithing, because maybe there's a pirate that's looking for like perfect gold ore or something like that. I think that would be a really nice unlock to come from sailing. Now, I know that I've been like talking a lot about like just gathering skills, but I also think that sailing could like smooth out some of the rougher edges on just general iron account progression because that's what I know. Like I have played the main, but main account progression is so fucked up as it is, so it's not even worth talking about. So I don't know if I uploaded this video, but like one of the things that I really think irons like need are magic roots. Because if you want to make your own antidotes, it's just the most painful thing in the entire fucking world. And what I would like to see is maybe like an island or an area where there's just like a huge magic tree growing, and and you could just chop the tree like you would chop a redwood, and you end up with magic logs instead of redwood logs. You would obviously like have to gather them slower to like bounce the tree per an hour or something. But that's not really something I care about. Magic logs are essentially useless on an iron skilling account, so it's not something I'm like super concerned about. But the tree would also have roots, and you could just chop those roots to get just normal magic roots. And maybe you get like 100 or 200 of them per hour. Like it can be just like a crazy slow rate. And you could just use them to make your own antidotes because right now it's one of the most painful things in the entire Iron Man game mode. Because if you just want regular super anti poison, essentially what you have to do is you have to go to the fucking Tower of Life or whatever. Not the Tower of Life, the other tower, the observatory tower, yeah. And there's a super anti poison spawn next to it. And that's how most irons just like get their anti poisons early on in the game. And that's not something that I think is a good gameplay feature. I think we should have a reasonable way to get like antidotes, and I think that would be a really really neat like implementation of sailing as like a possible like reward space for the skill. Another thing that I would actually like really like to see is having building the boats be a construction training method that's kind of somewhere in between mahogany homes and regular construction. It won't give you like crazy XP per plank, but it would give you like some way to utilize bulk planks without having too much like APM and like just flicking and stuff. Because I've talked about this before, and I literally just can't do regular construction for extended periods of time. I can maybe only do regular construction for 30 minutes before I get severe wrist pain. And since it doesn't look like we're going to get left click construction anytime soon, it doesn't look like that's going to change. So what I would like to see from building a boat would be some type of method where you can just use maybe like 20 planks at once, run to the bank, run back, use 20 planks at once, and you can get XP rates that are better than mahogany homes, have worse XP per plank than mahogany homes, but just function as like a way more chill way of like training the skill instead of just having to do like the craziest APM in the entire game. Because if you look at efficient construction and you look at something like I don't know, like free tick for granite, construction is going to be more APM than free tick for granite in total, like over time, and that's an intended like game mechanic and not like a weird exploited players do. And I think that's just a really really dumb game design decision because when you look at the degree of APM that like tick manipulation requires, it's something that causes a lot of people like severe hand pain and stuff. And for me personally, tick manipulation is just it doesn't require that much mouse movement in general, so it's not something that like causes me any like pain. But when it comes to like menuing the way you had to do at blackjacking back in the day, and you still have to do at construction, you're going to just like end up with like a lot of people who can't train the skills because it causes them like a significant amount of hand pain. So what I would like to see is something where it's not the best for GP per plank or whatever, like XP per plank, whatever method you want to use. It can even be like worse than regular construction. It doesn't really matter to me because if you look at my cash tech, I have more than enough right now, and I still have like a bunch of stuff I could like go through in my bank to get an even bigger like cash tech. But what I would like is a way to just dump that cash stack into construction and do it at a relatively efficient pace without having to suffer pain. And even though if it's less, even if it's less efficient, it's something that I would really enjoy, and I think a lot of other people would also really enjoy that. Another thing that sailing could unlock are obviously just PVM dungeons, and what I would like to see from those is basically just a way to make the really bad Slayer tasks that you just have to do less bad. So you know how if you do Slayer in the Proof Cave, you get crystal shards, and if you do Slayer in the Catacombs of Corinth, you get the resources from there. What I would like to see is instead of just having an additional resource from those tasks, you can just kill monsters that are lower leveled and that aren't as annoying to kill as some of the early Slayer tasks you get on an account are. So, for example, you could reach let's say 30 Slayer, and you unlock an item. You unlock an island that has crater demons or black demons on it, but they're essentially baby dragon versions of those. And if you're training Slayer early on an account, you don't have that many tasks that you can make full use of. So you have to do a lot of those really bad tasks, unless you're doing Wilderness Slayer, which also has its own downsides. So there could be a combination of sailing Slayer creatures, where maybe you have fucking black demon thralls or whatever, black demon servants. It doesn't matter how they're flavored, but what matters is that essentially you can just kill them better, and you can have a lot of the early tasks stack up to the other early tasks that you like doing, or most people like doing, blood wells, for example. Blood wells are really well loved early Slayer task because it's a monster that has a decent amount of HP, doesn't hit you for a lot if you have prayers on, and even if you have prayers off, dying to it in singles is fairly difficult, but some people have still managed to do it. And yeah, so just giving more AFK early Slayer training opportunities where you technically have monsters that can be fought on task, but they're just not as annoying to fight as regular monsters, and they don't have the like enhanced drops, or maybe even they don't have good drops at all. And I think that would be really nice for just to smooth out the super early Slayer experience on new accounts. And even for higher level Slayer monsters, I would like to see more multi spots. Maybe sorry that I'm coughing. I'm getting really excited for these ideas. But yeah, maybe more multi spots where you can cannon, and that's obviously something for mains, because for irons, all of your cannonballs long term are going to smoke devils if you're doing post 99 skilling, and any other use of cannonballs is basically just to get your champion's cape, or one of those other other higher end completionist things that take a super long time to do without cannonballs. So you're never really using cannonballs for normal Slayer, but I know mains are. And if you look at the main task list, at this point, Sukas aren't good anymore from what I know. But imagine if you had a spot where you could just cannon something better than Sukas, and you could also barrage them, and I don't know, you could just create even better, more desirable Slayer spots. And I know a lot of people don't like the idea of speeding up Slayer, but I'm not one of those people. I think Slayer is just too slow of a skill. Because even if you're doing efficient Slayer, you're not getting more than 60k XP an hour most of the time. And getting that 60k XP per hour rate is absolutely miserable in a skill where you're doing it at max efficiency. So I would like to see ways to just speed up the skill that are tied to other things. But that's mostly because I don't like training Slayer myself. And I know if someone says hey, I want to train Slayer for 500 hours, and it's the thing that I enjoy doing in the game, fair enough. That's not me. I don't like training a skill for that long if I don't enjoy it, and I don't enjoy Slayer. So yeah, um, And that would be like a really easy reward. Or actually, there are these like there's this Slayer master in like RS3. I don't know exactly what her mechanics are, but she's like the desert Slayer master, and she has like her own task list, and her task list is basically just like really good for like some certain drops. So what if you had like a sailing Slayer master that would only assign you like monsters to kill on like islands essentially. So if you wanted to kill any of like her monsters, you'd have to go to a specific island to kill it. And those monsters would be ones that have like desirable drops and that like people want to kill. So for example, these monsters could be something like black demons or spiritual creatures maybe even, because I think it doesn't really matter that much lore wise. We could have like lost spiritual creatures on a island, and you could just easily kill them there instead of going to Godwar's dungeon, and you could get your like dragon boots, and something like cave horrors. So essentially, whenever you're looking for like an upgrade, you're like your PVM setup, and you're just wanting to do it through Slayer, or if you just want to do Slayer tasks where you do get profitable drops, like maybe even like Smoke Devils and Krakens. Obviously Krakens because it's sailing, but yeah, you could have like a sailing Slayer monster that just assigns like really nice profitable monsters to kill, and it allows you to get these PVM drops like in a more convenient way than other Slayer monsters because it just wouldn't have like zero profit tasks on her like Slayer list, and that could also be balanced out by her not assigning stuff like Necrils and Dust Devils and like those really good XP tasks. And the only good XP tasks that she could have are like Smoke Devils maybe. So you're not gonna get good XP per hour if you're doing like her tasks, but you're gonna get a lot of profit. And if you're an item, you're gonna get your like PVM upgrades really easily. And if you want like more items to like take into the wilderness, for example, like if you need extra black masks for wilderness slayer, or if you need like I don't know like extra whips for wilderness content, you could just use like some of her slayer, and you could get all of those items pretty easily. So yeah, I know these are just a couple of ideas for where sailing could go and like what reward sailing could have. And yeah, we don't know how the skill is gonna be trained yet, but I really do hope it like introduces something like novel and interesting when it comes to the way it enhances other skills.